just as far as that fear component is concerned and worrying about things not happening, that's the biggest fear of all is, if you do nothing, nothing will occur. Hey, everybody. Today, I'm very, very happy to go ahead and have not only myself, I'm Sean Ackerman, the host of You Leading You, but I'm also joined today by
Ellery Wells. Hey guys, I'm the host of the Empowered podcast, among other things, and Sean and I decided, well, it was Sean's idea. I can't take any credit for it, and I'll let him explain, but we decided to do this together to introduce audiences to one another
keep going.
Have some fun.
You got some momentum, my friend. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm just here to have some fun, and Sean, what do I want to say? I think you're a cool dude, so when you had this cool idea, because that's what it's about. It's about collaboration instead of competition. And when you had this idea, I was like, heck yeah, I'm totally in. And we just wanted to share just kind of our journey over the last several months and share that with the listeners of both shows. So as with most things, that you don't think, hey man, I'm the only one that's going through this, or everybody I talk to about this thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah, but everybody's got a slightly different
show you that's
story,
not true.
And you know what? And that's yep. Just it. Everybody can go ahead and make some sort of connection with trying to attain more success in life. And entrepreneurship is a fantastic way for people to go ahead and try to do that. Whether you're creating a podcast or a blog or a product, or you're into internet marketing. I mean, there are so many different ways that you can, grow outside of the day-to-day existence. It's amazing, and I know that was definitely an allure for you, right, Ellery?
Yeah, I'm building a membership site right now, Sean, and I was working. I lost 4 hours of work today. I was so frustrated, but I was going through writing out just more of my story, and we think. If you're stuck going to corporate America and you're not happy in your job, which maybe a lot of people listening to this are, it's like, that becomes your normal. It's like, I'm going to live the next 20, 30, 40 years of my life being miserable. And when you get introduced to people like Sean, and the fun factor goes through the roof, and you're like, man, maybe this existence of walking around with a thorn in my shoe 7 days a week, 365 days a year, maybe that's not the only way to do it. Maybe there is a way to be a little bit happier and have purpose and have a smile on your face and to be genuine instead of a smile to suck up to a boss or something like that.
And that's just it. I think it's important. I think you hit the nail right on the head. You got to be content inside. You have to find something that really drives kind of your inner compass. And, and that's just it. I mean, I love the ability that I've been able to go ahead and do with creating a podcast, creating a kind of a brand with You Leading You, and then all of a sudden grow an audience and have people enjoy what I put out and have a community that starts to build around it. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Who am I to be able to go ahead and do this? And in the end, you just kind of push forward to go ahead and try to achieve that.
Well, at the end of the day, Sean, who is anybody to do anything? I mean, who's LeBron James to say he's the greatest basketball player, Michael Jordan, or any of these? We're just people that are hopefully leveraging our natural talents in life. And you bring me to a question, and I don't think that you and I've necessarily talked about this. I think you have had a few episodes of your podcast, a fantastic one around. It's either like 18 or 22 for you. But why did you start this podcast, and how long have you been going now?
Right. Well, I'm now on episode, let's see, I just launched episode 58. And wow. Love the journey so far. It actually launched back in early May. So I'm just 6 months into it at this point, and it's gone great. I'm almost 500,000 downloads.
That's awesome.
And I did it out of a place that I needed to go ahead and create an area where I could go ahead and spread the knowledge I had in the business world. I found that I had, reached a certain point in what I was doing at work where I burnt myself out. And, it got to a difficult point, and I needed to make a change. And so I did. And I found a different role in the organization. But I also, I ended up in a hospital. So I needed to go ahead and make a serious change, and I did. And the shift was to take a less direct frontline responsibility and more of a backline analytical responsibility. which was great, but I really didn't have the outlet that I had had before with talking in front of large groups of people. And, I enjoy that. So I said to myself, what do I want to do? What else do I want to create in life? Especially since I had gone to a very stressful place. And what I ended up saying to myself was, I want to create a podcast. I've been listening to podcasts for, the last 8 years. My wife bought me an iPod back in '05. And I'm a geek. I was listening to the Lost podcasts, and I was listening to stuff on sci-fi and horror and also sports and music. And eventually I had found that it was a great medium to learn, listening to business management podcasts and financial podcasts. And, and it's definitely been an evolution. And I said, well, wait a minute. I've got something I can go ahead and bring out to the world as well. So I said, I'm going to create this brand, You Leading You, and I'm going to go out and help people essentially organize themselves and get to where they want to go in life through just small, methodical steps. And, it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, and I love that theme, and we've talked about this before, about the you leading you. If you can't master yourself, then that's the first step. You got to lead yourself before you can lead anybody else. And I love that concept that you've put out there. And congrats on the 58 shows, man. I'm at like 63, or I guess tomorrow, or no, this week, because today's Monday, not Tuesday. I don't think it'll be 64 for me, and I've gone for just over a year. So you're going super, not fast. I don't want to say fast, but
well, you know what?
You're just putting it out.
And Ellery, the fun thing is I'm doing this while I'm still working full time. I mean, you and I are talking right now, and I'll apologize to the whole world here. I ended up being 15 minutes late because I was stuck in traffic, so it's okay. Jumped on the phone. But normally I put my episodes, my interviews out a little bit later at night. And what I'll end up doing is I'll go from, say, 7 to 10 o'clock at night, maybe two days a week. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I'm available. I can go ahead and pull people in. I also book that time in to do my editing and all the fun stuff that goes along with podcasting. But we can talk about that a little bit later. But I do that because I block out time so that I can, obviously create what I'm doing here, but also I learned a valuable lesson when I started to really lead myself and go into podcasting was I need to make sure I had time for my family. So, I also compartmentalize the time that I need to spend with them. And, it's funny. Some people are like, no, you've got to be spontaneous. And I absolutely agree with that. But you know what? Here it is. I'm working full time. I'm doing the side gig, and I got a beautiful wife and kids that need my attention too. And guess what? There is a way for you to have it all, as long as you go ahead and you really focus on and getting it done. And that's kind of the core concept and what I try to live with every day. And I mean, Ellery, I know you began a journey yourself, and I want to flip the switch because I got to go ahead and ask you about your show, and tell us about the roots.
Sure. Yeah. To answer the question that I'd asked you why I got started, I thought I was going to get rich, Sean. I think a lot of podcasters did. It'd be like starting a burger joint in like 1957. Ray Kroc's doing his thing, and McDonald's is going, "Oh, I'm going to start a burger." That's how I felt about podcasting. At that point, John Dumas was making like 10 grand a month, and then it was 20, and then I was like, man, I can do this too if I just do a portion of what this guy's done. I'll be able to retire. I had all these big dollar signs in my head, and none of that.
All right. I got to interject and make sure I give full disclosure, because you know what, I will honestly say I was looking to go ahead and create a business, and yes, I absolutely would have loved the money to have flown right in like JLD, and you know what, he does a great job, and he's achieved some fantastic success, and we all saw that. That's entrepreneurship in action, and. Absolutely. It really is, and it was fantastic. And for us to see that, I mean, but I'm looking at myself now in the mirror, Ellery, and a year ago from where I am, I really began this journey of creating this. I've now created an LLC. I've gotten a professional studio set up basically. I'm producing content on a regular basis. I'm getting great downloads. I'm looking at basically creating a business that is taking me maybe about a 15 to 20 hour a week investment, and it's creating such huge exposure. And so I mean, I know that's also something that you were looking at when you were beginning to do this as well. I mean, you didn't want to just, and it is about catching a a quick nickel if you can. But you also had a message behind it too.
Well, it's absolutely right. And when we're talking about money, Sean, and you and I probably think it the same way. It's not all about the money, but with money, you can do other things. You could go full time and add more value to more people. So it's not necessarily about the money. And when I said none of that stuff happened to me, what I mean by that is I don't have sponsors in my show. I don't have someone paying me, $100, for 1,000 downloads or 10,000, whatever. But the other things that have been nice, that have added value to my business, have been completely 100% unexpected.
In what way?
And I'll just give you, I'll give you an example. I am, as you and I've talked about, I've started these private group masterminds. In this first small group that I went to, none of the people that are in it, I didn't have to sell them at all. I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and if I do, would you be interested? And people said, yes, count me in, before I had to explain anything, and before I even told them how much that it would cost. And it was people who read my blog and listened to my podcast. They knew who I was, what I stood for, and what I was about. And so when I'm talking about there's no necessarily money tied to advertising or something like that. There have been so many other benefits like this. I would have never, ever, ever, ever have imagined I could put something out there and people would say yes before they knew anything about it. That still blows my mind. And so no advertising revenue, but that's one example of these side benefits of how it's turned into a business. And like you were saying before, you still have the corporate job. I don't. This is what I do full time. I spent from
I'm
about
jealous,
12
by the
to.
way.
It has it's mostly ups, definitely some downs as well. But like today, I spent 4 hours working on a landing page, and it just disappeared. I was saving it. I was doing everything periodically. It just disappeared. So there's definitely some downsides. But yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And
it's a great journey, and that's just it. I mean, and think about the people that you're meeting and the exposure that you've had. I mean, here it is. You and I are talking across the country. Basically, having a conversation, and didn't know each other a year ago and found each other through podcasting. Not in any sort of undercurrent black market or anything like that, folks, but just in podcasting, in something we were both enjoying, and and all of a sudden, you make these connections and these friendships and these relationships that expand your universe so much.
And that's what we were saying before. It's about it being collaborations. We could have easily said, well, Ellery's doing his thing, and I could have said, well, Sean's doing his thing, and there's some overlap. Well, I'm gonna try to take his audience, or I'm gonna try to do better than. Instead of what we have done is come together with the rising tide raises all boats kind of idea. And that's where I really try to encourage all the people that I'm coaching and the people in the masterminds is, if we don't band together, if we don't collaborate, we're going to get crushed by regular old radio. Or if we had products to sell, we'd get crushed by Walmart like they do every time they go into a small community. If we don't think, how can I partner with Sean, or how can I partner with this other guy that I've met online, or this other girl, we're going to get crushed, because not only can we not keep up with a company that has 50,000 employees, but we can't keep up time, energy, creativity. We've got to put our heads together if we're ever going to succeed. And there's no downside to me helping you that I can.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, I belong to a mastermind as well, and it's funny because we're a group that is focused on the same rising tide mentality, and I know you surround yourself with the same thought process. Like-minded individuals can go ahead and help themselves so tremendously excel through getting things achieved. And you know what? But then I look across and I say, there is such a huge community here there is such a vast amount of information that, people can share. And you were talking before about people jumping on board with coaching. And I think the main reason why you see that is the speed of education is tremendous when you have somebody that's experienced in an area where somebody else wants to excel. Well, a la, look what John Lee Dumas has done, or what Pat Flynn has done, or what, Cliff Ravenscraft has done with packaging their programs. They were the experts, and they had, tremendous success with creating something where there was a need. Well, here we are, and this is kind of 2.0. It's really, and that's really what it is. It's podcasting 2.0, where the technology has now advanced itself to a point where we can create these very, very professional shows on little if no budget, and make it of exceptional quality and content with, things that people have never heard before. And I think that's just truly amazing.
Yeah, and that was a big struggle for me, Sean, because I my entire working life, I started when I was like 15 or whatever. I worked at Sonic in the kitchen, and then I worked at American Eagle selling clothes. And then I worked at the computer store on Baylor's campus selling widgets and stuff and computers. I worked at Dell selling computers, and I've always sold physical stuff. And the challenge for me was I don't think I have any really physical products right now. I get paid for what I know, and that was a big adjustment for me. And I still haven't mastered it. I still don't feel completely comfortable with it.
Well, and it kind of takes it doesn't necessarily take the place of the the time for money thought process, because in the end you're still giving up some of your time for money. You haven't necessarily disassociated it or weighted it with yourself, but you're in a position now to go ahead and basically pay for the knowledge that you have, which you can then dictate the amount of time that you truly need to spend and the value that's associated with it, which that's really the key. I mean, you think about what, people like you and I have put into doing this with, groups and masterminds and products and services that we require to go ahead and run a podcast, as well as conventions and, seminars and things of that nature. We make a nice investment into what we're doing, and I think that's creating obviously a above par product. That being said, I think that's why individuals are kind of drawn to individuals like yourself to get help, because they do see that there's a success path there.
Hopefully, it's taken a while for me, and I don't feel like I'm anywhere near where I know I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. And it's funny, last week, it was within the last couple of weeks, this guy had me on his show and it's like, so, he threw out the phrase overnight success. And I just kind of was like, are you kidding?
Years in the making.
In January of 2015, it will be 3 years since I started my first blog at like something.com. It's been 3 years, 300 blog posts, 60 plus released episodes, 100 interviews to be called this overnight success. And then, like I said, we're talking about not selling something you can put your hands on. It is absolutely a journey. But you were telling me before, so I've kind of, among other things, I've struggled with wrapping my head around getting paid for what I know, and many more things. But you were telling me a little bit about the technology piece too, because I was talking to a lady yesterday who was having some issues with the technology on her end. She was signing up for something I had, and I walked her through it. What are some of the challenges you've had, Sean?
And I think to that point, it's been an education. I mean, and it's funny because as I've looked at it,
that's a good word too. Not challenges.
Yeah,
education.
because you know what? Unfortunately for the world, I've got the kind of perseverance that people can also be called stubbornness. So I'll find the answer to the problem that I've had. So anyway, I decided to go into podcasting, but I've never really worked with recording equipment before. I've been, don't get me wrong, I've worked in the IT world before, so as far as technology is concerned, that's not an issue, but I'd never worked with programs like Audacity, and had my own, product or service or blog for that point, And I did have a blog for a short period of time before I started the podcast, but that was really my first kind of entrance out into the world. And so, well, wow, here I am.
Yep.
Meanwhile, every 12-year-old under the sun is doing it. But
Well, here's a quick random question for you, Sean. What was it like the first time you walked into a Guitar Center?
It was, well, you see, now the first time I was like 16, and I was playing bass at the time. So
Okay.
but we'll fast forward. Let's see, about 27 years, and it was kind of interesting. I mean, it was like, I want to record this, and it was really an interesting experience to be able to say, I'm now going to go ahead and create something professionally, and I think that was really what struck me.
Well, I walked into one here in Round Rock, and I imagine it's like going to maybe Best Buy for the first time. You just walk in, and there's like walls of guitars and stuff that I didn't know anything about. This was when I think I had maybe just gotten my Blue Yeti in the mail. And when you're talking about the education and the learning process, I felt completely overwhelmed. I'd never played an instrument. I'd never done the bass like you were talking about. I'd played games on the computer and used Microsoft Office and stuff, but never used any of these editing tools. None of that stuff. And it was almost like a completely different foreign language.
Absolutely, especially when I started to go ahead and create my own WordPress site, and I'm saying, oh, well, I can do okay, I've got to add a little bit of code in here. Now, I coded back in high school. Again, that was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And that's just it. But it's not only that; it's the other avenues, not just the editing piece. But we're running businesses here. I've found that now working with marketing pieces like Aweber or lead pages, all of a sudden there's that aspect of the business that, I'm doing my own marketing now, and now I've got software and tools that I can use for this. And I never was involved with that on a day-to-day basis. Usually there was something in a corporate world that was already pre-purchased.
So I'm pulling up your I type in you lead, and you leading you is the next thing down, and number one result.
Thank you, sir.
There we go. So you're using lead pages right now. Is it okay if we go into some of the tools that we use?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, so you switched to lead pages, or did you?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was interrupting you there. So you did go to lead pages. What made you go that route?
You know what? From an automation standpoint, I knew that I couldn't go ahead and really code and worry about wanting to make changes on the fly, because I do want to make changes all the time, and I pay somebody to go ahead and do this. And I really saw in lead pages a solution that was very scalable, very quick, easily customizable, and for the non-coding individual like myself, it was the best solution that I was able to go ahead and quickly get on top of and utilize it.
So I guess that's the advantage to since everything's hosted on their servers, it's more drag and drop.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because today's Monday the 8th. Last Thursday, I bit the bullet and bought Optimized Press.
Okay.
And it's not that there's a lot of coding, but I guess I always want to make a few more changes than maybe the normal person would. So it's all on my WordPress install. So there is some of that. You got to integrate it with PayPal and use their API, and that gets super super technical, which would lose a lot of people. But within the last week, I've gone in that direction as well.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a necessity. I mean, I've also got I was going to use, or I was using some of the built-in WordPress contact gathering in the beginning, and I'm like, listen, am I really going to go ahead and scale that? No. So I went out and I got a Aweber subscription, and so I've got something for contact gathering. All these things that are part of learning about this process and how it works, I think comes into play. And you talk about different tools. Your site itself, is it a WordPress site with a theme, or how did you go ahead and decide this is what I'm going to use for a website?
That's a very interesting question, because I like I mentioned before, not having any sort of knowledge about musical instruments, which there's a lot of crossover between that and podcasting or any of those software tools to do sound and video editing, anything like that. I'd never heard the word WordPress 3 years ago. So it'll be 3 years in January. At this time, 3 years ago, a month before, so I'd never even heard the word before. And so I was completely new to blogging, completely new to anything online other than like watching Netflix and trying to connect games and stuff like that. And it's all everything. That's part of my story, Sean. Is everything that I've done is anybody can do it. Anybody can learn what I've learned, or you can pay me and I'll shorten your learning curve by 2.5 years. Anyway, yeah. So I do run WordPress. If anybody is familiar with what the themes are and stuff, I use Studio Press. I really like them. I think their code's good, which just translates to really fast, really optimized web pages. And then I did recently move over to Optimize Press because I got a really weird call on last Wednesday. So right before I bought Optimize Press, one of the guys in my mastermind group called me up and he's like, Ellery, I love your content. Your blog posts are great, but at what point do you enlist a little bit of help with your landing pages? Because I was building them all myself, and I was working with some certain limitations, not only with my own knowledge, but within the Studio Press stuff that I was talking about just a second ago. And that was my blog post today, was at what point do we, like you said, hey, I need to get some help with lead pages and some of these automation things and whatnot. And that's kind of where I'd been putting that off for a long time. So 2 years and like 10 months, 2 years and 11 months, 11 and a half really, or so, I tried to do it myself. If I couldn't build it, I didn't have it. If I couldn't, I don't say code because it's not really coding, but if I couldn't do it myself, I didn't have it. I didn't pay for any of these bigger, fancier, nicer, flashier solutions, and I think that might have held me back a little bit.
Well, and I think it cost me,
Sean?
too, to be honest with you. I started out that way, too, Ellery. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I started out with a WordPress site, and I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and use my own theme. You know, there were so many things that I tried to go ahead and make and take my own shortcuts with. I mean, when I launched my podcast, I actually downed my website 5 days before and just put another one up just to go ahead and be able to, and I bought my current theme, but just to go ahead and launch the website and the episode, and it was garbage at the time, unfortunately, but you know, I did it, and that was a little bit of me rushing to get to the market and understanding, you know, really what the right solution was, because I didn't understand that. And you know, it's obviously, as we mentioned before, it's been kind of trial and error along the way, but that kind of speed really helped, because then I spent money in a lot of different areas, you know, including, you know, advertising and thinking, oh, this is how I'm going to go ahead and generate a huge audience. Because, of course, as with the beginning of this journey we were talking about, it's also those sometimes those illusions, and I will not say delusions, but those illusions of grandeur where, you know, we'll just have this magical post or fantastic guest that will all of a sudden, you know, the world will all of a sudden say, hey, there's Ellery Wells. I'm noticing him, you know, and that's the reality is it doesn't happen that way. What happens is things like this, things like your day-to-day episodes that occur and the consistency that you have in sending your message across, I think are really key. And then we supplement that with these tools that we have here that we've gained such knowledge on. Yeah,
I think I know there's value in doing it yourself, but there's also wisdom in getting the help from other people.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about this, just the tools and breaking it, or maybe when you said took it down, you weren't thinking. I was thinking break, because I've broken my site a bunch of times and figured out how to make it work again. But the thing that's common with us, Sean, is we did it anyway, and that's kind of the underlying tone of the last couple minutes. And what I would want someone to get out of this part of listen to us chat today is you'll never have all the answers. You'll never have all your ducks in a row. You'll never have everything exactly the right way. There's no perfect time. There's no right time. And you can even though most things on the internet are relatively permanent, you can always fix or tweak and get it. Don't wait till you get the heading right or the outline right.
Just do it
before you launch.
Push it out there. And you know what? And Ellery, I mean, I look at this, where here we are, the two of us are just sitting here chatting. We're spreading this throughout the world. And the way I look at it is, this is what people need to know, is that there is such a community of openness that's out there to go ahead and help you get your message across. I mean, if you needed something, I think you made a post the other day about needing some audio help, and all of a sudden the community responded. Mm-hmm. And how quickly did you have somebody to respond and help you?
It was very, very helpful, but oddly enough, it was the perfect storm, because like the first 5 or 6 people that I asked, who are always at their computers, were not at their computers. One of the first guys I went to, I was like, he'll be there. He's always at his computer. He's always ready to hop on a Skype call. he wasn't home. So, but most of the time, it's people wanting to help, because again, to that rising tide thing, if I can help you, let me go put this back on myself instead of on you. If you were to help me get better sound quality, and someone listens to my show and they think, oh, that sounds really good, they're going to expect that from you. Although if I had really bad sound quality or a really slow website, they were the first place, or I was the first place that they listened to or visited, like, man, this whole podcasting thing, it's not so great. I'm not a huge fan. But if we can all help each other look better, sound better, do better, it not only raises the standard, but it increases the likelihood that we'll get discovered by other people.
Because we're amongst quality.
And exactly. And so to answer your question, even though that was one of those times where it took me, and honestly, it didn't take all that long the internet moves so fast. When I say it took me a few minutes, it took me like 12. And I was doing 18 other things at the same time. But so it didn't take me all that long, but we are, and the blogging community's good, but no other community is quite like this podcasting one, of just people going, in some cases, way out of their way to help people. And I'm here looking at your site, and it looked like you were down in Florida for their podcasting thing. Did that
no, actually, I wasn't down there. That was for actually one of my latest guests was Donald Kelly. So he was actually
okay.
Yeah, okay. No, Donald looks a little bit like me, but not exactly. But no, Donald was.
No, I saw that on your site. I saw that I'm speaking. I looked at that. I didn't realize his face.
No,
was
that's
on
okay.
There,
No.
Okay.
But no, they had a fantastic meetup, and that's the interesting thing, and it hits right back to that point again. That Podcast Florida, that was a group of like-minded people. Ellery, you and I saw each other at Podcast Movement a few months back, and I mean, that was just an outpouring of community unlike which I have probably never seen before in my professional world of working in various corporate environments.
Well, that, just like I was saying before about that landing page that I lost, hopefully I'll be able to recover it, but I'm not holding out any hope. Part of what I was writing in there is, when I worked in corporate America, and maybe you can echo this too, Sean, is whenever I was in corporate America, there was one promotion available, there was one raise available, and it was very much a competitive pit. People want against each other, put both dogs in the cage, and the winner will come out alive, kind of thing. And that was the mentality, and it took me a long time to realize that it doesn't have to be that way. And when we're talking about podcasting or online business, or this, like you were talking about podcast movement here in 2014, just people wanting to help, it was almost alien to me. It was very foreign.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
And it's a shame. I think a lot of people still see competition instead of the collaboration that we keep mentioning.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, the ability to go ahead and reach out to say, hey, Ellery, let's do a show and just talk about, some of the ups and downs, and this, we'll go off on all sorts of wild tangents, but we'll talk mainly about our journey, and there'll be some great nuggets of stuff that's in there for folks. And you know what? Hey, I'm happy to go ahead and do it. You were happy to go ahead and excited to do it as well. And I said, these are the kinds of things that we need to do, because people need to know that this isn't, as you said before, anybody can do this. Anybody, if they put their mind to it, they can do anything. I mean, I'm asking people to be on my show, Allery, and they're saying yes. I mean, that's just simply amazing. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm seeing people that are, really just that are inspirations and heroes to me. I'm reaching out to them, trying to get them on my show, and I'm getting some correspondence, so I'm happy about that. This is just something that's so invigorating. It's something that I think that people need to know, that there's this medium that's out there that can actually give you your voice and help you to go ahead and do something. Now, whether it's going to be to help your own business or to help a personal passion, it's out there, and if you do it right, it can really make a tremendous impact. And you know what? And I emphasize, if you do it right, because I'm very happy to go ahead and see that there are people that unfortunately didn't follow through with it, because again, I watch people that stay with it, and I watch people that don't. You've really got to be committed to creating something that's vital and that'll be sustaining and long lasting.
Yeah, and I just had a thought that completely escaped me, which happens.
That's because I talk so much. I suck the oxygen out of the room. You got to keep a notepad right next to you, because I will absolutely kill the train of thought.
No, but as soon as you said that, I got it back. But what you're saying is absolutely true. And what I had in my head was, we don't live in a time anymore where we're really bound a whole lot by physical limitations. We're not going to grow to 7 foot tall. I will never dunk a basketball. I don't believe that we can be anything that we want to be. I don't believe that, because I'm never going to be, a size 0 ballerina. Even if I wanted to be, I'm never going to be 7 foot tall. I can never be in the NBA. But that's okay. I was not designed and put on this earth to do those kinds of things. But when it comes to what we're doing, and we're still having a boatload of fun doing it, is where we are learning what's possible, what we can do, and what's out there. And for us, it's podcasting. It could be blogging. It could be doing YouTube videos. It could be writing. And as soon as we find that mix of passion plus what we can do or what we want to do, and we can learn through that process and get there, I think the possibilities are somewhat endless.
No, I'm going to challenge on that. I think they aren't. I think they are endless. It's interesting. I like the whole NBA. You're right. You'll absolutely never go on court necessarily and do a slam dunk.
Although you're like 6
yeah,
foot
I'm like
tall
6'2", but you know what though? I'm about as coordinated as a yak. So so I wouldn't be doing very well either. But the way I think about it, you know what? If you really love the NBA that much, and you know what, you like talking, and you like doing something like this, then guess what? Start a podcast about the NBA, become known, create yourself a celebrity, and then you might have an opportunity, if you try and you actually put your mind to it and you put your energy into it, to maybe be a guest announcer at a game or two. Those are things that could happen for you if you put your mind to it.
Oh, that's absolutely within reach. My friend of mine, Marshall, up in Canada, he announces for hockey games. Just because he likes hockey, and he created the opportunity to do that. But before we still got a few minutes left, Sean. I don't have anything that's pressing, but I know we wanted to talk about some of those things that we have really learned, or some of those takeaways, if you will, something that someone could write down and either implement or make a change in their life. What kind of things would you say to or where would you take that?
All right, so I think we'll both jump on this. Let's go ahead and give one big takeaway for the audience as far as something along our journey that's helped us, or that we can go ahead and be able to impart on them. And for me, it's been creating lists and steps along the way, because as we've been going through this whole thing with podcasting and getting guests on the show and doing your marketing, I got to tell you folks, you learn a lot and you forget just about as much as well. And then you're recreating the wheel. And if anybody knows me and knows the show, I am a process guy. I am an OCD, ADHD. So I got to go ahead and keep it under wraps, because I'll go nuts if I don't. But what I do is I create a list of something, so like, hey, if I've got a guest coming on the show, I make sure that I have a list. What do I need to do from A to Z? Because, and also that'll change from time to time as technology may change. I'm going to release an episode. What do I need to do in my social media? So my biggest takeaway for the audience is creating lists of your tasks. And again, those small tasks are how you can go ahead and have a show or a YouTube channel or a book or something that actually generates you a not only maybe a monetary compensation, but then also notoriety and being able to go ahead and spread your passion. And it's just, gosh, I just want to explode sometime when I talk about it. Ellery, I'm sorry, back to you.
No, I love that, Sean, because lists allow for scalability. And people, when they listen to You Leading You or they listen to the Empowered Podcast, they want to have some level of consistency. Even these great Renaissance painters, forgive me out there if Van Gogh is not a Renaissance painter, but some of these fantastic artists, there was still some consistency to how they made these great works of art, and the experts and people who paid attention could say, oh, that's a Monet painting just because of the methods that he would use, or that's a Van Gogh because of the style. And it was a familiar thing. And when we're going into this digital world, people want, if they know, like, and trust you, Sean, and they go to youleadingyou.com, for example, or they go to a different site that you may have currently or in the future, they want to know, hey, this is different, but this feels like Sean's work. And if it is, you want them to leverage that know, like, and trust factor from one platform to another, whether it's a blog post or a podcast or a membership site or a training course or something like that. Or, like you've got this thing where you can download a list of things to do to lead themselves on your infographic there. That creating, again, those lists allow for scalability. And when you're trying to do it all on your own, anything that you can automate or minimize the time spent doing it, I'm all for that. Like templates, not necessarily copy and paste, but templates of, fill in the blank.
Yeah, perfect example. And here's another little nugget. Streak for Gmail is something I absolutely love.
I've never heard of that.
Streak is fantastic because you can go ahead and use it to go ahead and create templates for standard emails going out for guests, going out when their episode's launching. I started using it and I automated my time down quite a bit.
I usually I'm a huge Evernote fan. I don't do all of the advanced stuff, but I'll copy and paste HTML code so I can, automate some of that stuff for blogs or podcast episodes, emails, autoresponders, all that go in there. So Streak for Gmail, I'm looking at it right now. Streak.com, by the way. It looks like a Chrome add-on.
It is a Chrome add-on.
Okay, I'll have to check that out because, well, I say that, but I do most of my email in Outlook anymore, because I've got like 8 email addresses that
I understand completely. Hey, you're not getting off the hook, buddy.
Anyway.
Now also, folks obviously will go out there and they'll go to ellerywells.com, and they'll go ahead and check out your site. And you were talking about trusting people. And, that's funny because, here it is. We knew each other a little bit. We met online. And that's funny you say that so many times nowadays. But we met online, and then all of a sudden we meet in an elevator going upstairs at Podcast Movement, and I think we were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
True.
These things happen. You make these connections, and you're right. And all of a sudden you have a trust factor because there's this real human being that's imparting, certain degrees of wisdom on it. And and I think that's important. So you've learned a lot on your journey, and you've been at it a lot longer as well, Ellery. What's one large takeaway or knowledge point that you have?
I haven't shared this anywhere, and it's still a working theory in my head, Sean, but I'll share it with you, and you can give me your feedback, and I would love to get some listener feedback as well. Is the dose of personality that you put into your stuff? When I started, for some reason, I wanted it to be relatively sterile. I was afraid of putting my unique spin or personality and injecting my I won't say personality again, but that sounds redundant. Putting my personality into blog posts and podcasts, and I didn't for a long time. Once I started getting more traction. People started to really relate, and then that does help with the know, like, and trust factor. But here's the part that's really the working theory. They're down here in Austin. They're on, I don't know, it's one of the news channels. There's this girl that's a news anchor, and I've only seen her like after the 9 o'clock show turns off, and you catch that segment of the news before your DVR cuts off, and she's so boring, Sean. She's absolutely she's awful. And I hate to say that, but she's so boring, she stands out as boring, and not in a good way. And then I don't know if you've seen this other news anchor float. He's been on YouTube with like millions of hits where he's dancing to, one was a Taylor Swift song.
Yes.
And what a drastic difference. This girl, I'm sure she's not boring when the camera's not on, but she has completely eliminated any dose of personality on her on-air persona, that she's awful. She'd be like eating cardboard for dinner. Just terrible. And then there's this dude who is putting his craziness, his wackiness, and which would you not only rather watch in a fun way, but which one would you rather get your news from?
Exactly. You know that you're going to go ahead and be, and I'll use the word, entertained. But I mean, and I think that's an important component about it. You talk about personality, and I think that's, what you and I inject in our shows is that bit of us, that's the human factor, and people find that entertaining. I mean, people find it's amazing.
It's taken me a while, John. It's less of an effort now, but I was because once you do that, once you pull back the curtain or you open up, people can say, I don't like you. And when they say I don't like you, and you're putting up this public face of being boring, or you're acting like I was the first half of my journey, it's like, okay, you don't like me. Well, I didn't really like that dude anyway. But when I say I'm a sci-fi nerd, I like hanging out with small groups of people, I'm extremely introverted, I like science fiction and books and smoking cigars and video games. If they said they don't like that, that's who I am, and it can hurt more.
Yeah.
But my advice, or one thing that I have learned, is that and this is part of that working theory, Sean, is that the more your personality that you can put into your work, honestly, the more successful that you're going to be. Look at all of the people on radio or TV who are loved or hated, but who make millions of dollars. Like I keep thinking of Glenn Beck. And I'm a Glenn Beck fan.
But look at Stern, look at Imus, and again, it goes back to it goes back to those. That's them. And you know what? And if it's a persona, that only lasts so long. I mean, I hate to say this, but you can be a personality, but a personality will eventually fade. I mean, there's got to be some genuineness to it.
Yeah, and I'm sure Stern on America's Talent Whatever is the same Stern as when he was on radio. I never listened to him, but I bet he got the same. My point being is, those, like you said, the personas will fade. Your heart's not in it. You can't keep it up. It's exhausting. But then whenever you do put your personality out there, and I love on The Voice how much of a kind of a behind the scenes look we get of Adam Levine and the country music star. What's his name?
Blake Shelton.
Yes, how much of their personalities come out, and they're arguably the most successful coaches on that show. Just when you look at so many examples, and then I don't mean to harp on this girl down here in Austin, but it's just such a drastic difference.
Well, I'm a Voice fan myself. My wife and I watch it, and you know what? And you know what she loves, and is the banter that occurs between the two of them, and that's what makes the show. I mean, I love, honestly, it's really about, the beginning of the show when they're very competitive and trying to go ahead and get the axe in the very beginning. It's interesting to watch that banter occur. And then as it progresses, that you can definitely see that there's a relationship there. And I think that's what we try to go ahead and portray with our audiences. We want them to feel comfortable talking to us like we're, that guy, hey, I can kind of make fun of you and poke at you a little bit as well. I respect you, but you're my friend.
Yeah. So put more personality into into what you're doing. It may hurt once or twice, but probably not. I think you'd resonate more with people, and all the bad things that we fear, like most things in life. Sean, you know this. Most things that we fear in life never actually
Well,
happen.
exactly. And just as far as that fear component is concerned, and worrying about things not happening, that's the biggest fear of all. Is, if you do nothing, nothing will occur. Well, guess what?
True.
I've got a podcast that right now I'm over. I'm gearing up for 500,000 downloads. I'm gearing up for. I'm easily got enough content to go through 75 episodes already in the can. I've already created some sort of a legacy of myself. And I think that's important too, is that I'm telling the world, here I am.
And that's what we got to do. I mean, we'll never make a difference if we just lock ourselves in our office. We could do these podcasts, but they're better when we interact with somebody.
Exactly.
Where everything's better when we have that extra level of personality and connection that we, sometimes maybe we want to avoid it. If you're like me, sometimes you like your alone time, but it's always better when you're out there and connecting with somebody like Sean. Where are you, Sean?
I'm in upstate New York, actually. I'm up by West Point, New York, in a little town called Cornwall on Hudson.
Okay. And here I am in Austin, Texas, worlds away. It was almost 70 degrees today. I bet it was cold as anything up there.
It was not 70 degrees today. Yeah, no, we were talking. We were down into the mid-20s, and tonight it's going to get down into the teens. So, and we're expecting a nor'easter too. Thank you very much.
How far were you from where it snowed? Was that over Thanksgiving, and it was like 8 feet of snow or something?
I'm far enough away, but actually Tim Page from Lead Pages lives up in Syracuse area. And they got walloped up there, 8 to 10 feet.
Well, that boggles my mind. Because this here is just rain and not even all that. Austin has really good weather, though. But anyway, yeah, so connect with people even though they're, a 2-day drive away, and share that weirdness, because Sean and I would never talk. We would have never known we were sci-fi fans, and you're posting about your Slipknot concert, which that's some pretty heavy music.
Oh yeah,
right?
No, it was great. Right up in front, enjoyed the show. Got to go ahead and meet Corey Taylor and Jim Root right from the band.
What?
Oh yeah, got to meet the guys. I got some pictures out there too. It was fantastic. So, and those are things that, I took action, and, taking action gets you places. So, I mean, that's the important part, is that I'm doing things in life, and I'm creating a legacy. I don't have him on my show, but I've got his PR information now that I'm going to try to go ahead and get the singer on the show.
Heck yeah. That would be awesome. That would be very cool, I think.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, I'm trying to get Stan Lee on the show. I mean, there are tons of people that I'd love to have. Nathan Fillion, if I get him, don't worry. I'll make sure that I'll connect him with you as well.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah.
So, and that's just it, folks. We're all on this journey together, and I think what we'll do, Ellery, is we'll kind of wind down a little bit. But, I've really enjoyed this talk and this conversation just about the journey that we've been on, and the things that we've created, and, some of the obstacles and things along the way. And I think that's very important for people to hear. Yeah,
the biggest tragedy we have is we just undervalue the importance of our own story. And if you go through life thinking you're the only one, you'll never achieve anything that you want to achieve, and you're going to feel isolated. And I'm really excited that you asked me to do this, and we were able to make it happen, and to share this conversation, because someone's going to listen to this show and they're like, well, maybe these guys who are doing this kind of stuff, if before they got started, they didn't know it either. They were in the same spot as I am, and maybe I can do it too. That's the goal that I have, and I think you do too. Exactly, inspiration and saying, hey, it's possible. There may be a learning curve, but that's how everything goes.
And I think that's important. And I think that people need to know that, all of a sudden, even anybody that's out there, you can go ahead and create the next amazing thing, that whether it's a product, a service, a brand, a voice, it doesn't matter. If you've got something inside you, doesn't cost a lot to go ahead and be able to project it to the world and do various things that get you noticed. I mean, you look at, as you said before, YouTube videos, blog posts. The ability to go ahead and not be quiet anymore is important. And I'm glad I'm on this journey, Ellery, and I'm glad I'm on this journey knowing you as well. Kind of on that note, why don't you tell the audience how to go ahead and reach you, and I'll do the same.
I was about to ask you that question. We both have plenty of practice.
And folks, there was no texting back and forth on that. By the way, my fingers have not touched the keyboard throughout this entire interview.
I did cheat. I was looking up the streak.
Okay, actually, I looked at the website when you were starting to talk about it, but that was it.
You can find me at ellerywells.com. There's social links down on the right side if you're on your computer, and connect with me everywhere. I'd love to say hello. And ellerywells.com has all of the stuff that I talk about, all the stuff that I teach, all of the tools and resources at ellerywells.com. Sean, where can we find you?
Well, after I've gotten off of ellerywells.com, which is a great website, and Ellery does have some awesome things out there, I go over to You Leading You because, well, I'm self-serving. And to be honest with you, I go over there and at leadingyou.com, that's where the podcast resides. Essentially, I've got great interviews with guests. I've got some good content on there as far as some lists. We do offer products and services, and, I'm here to go ahead and create a voice. I do a lot of offline coaching, and looking forward to growing the journey. So you can go ahead and go to You Leading You. Also can go ahead and find me at Twitter at You Leading You. I didn't pick a short one, so most people are cursing me out by the time they see that. But or at the Facebook page at You Leading You as well.
Awesome. Well, Sean, I don't know why I said John. Sean, thanks for doing this joint podcast with me. I had a ton of fun.
Yeah, no, I did too, Ellery, and I know it was. Actually wasn't John; it was Jean, because you thought I was Jean-Luc Picard because I have no hair.
Yes,
so I'm okay with that.
Exactly. Yes. There you go.
I got your back, my friend. All right, folks.
Awesome.
Hey, enjoyed this, folks. Really enjoyed it, Ellery. Have a great day.
You too, Sean. We'll see you later.
All right, take care.
If you've been listening to the show for any amount of time, you know my word for 2014 was collaboration. It's not necessarily something that I talked about just a whole lot, but about January or February of 2014, I decided, we don't need to think competition. We need to think collaboration. We'll never succeed if we keep trying to one-up one another. The rising tide raises all boats. And that's the rising tide comment that I meant just a few minutes, or that I said just a few minutes ago. And that's what I want you to think about. Whether you're listening to this, in the middle or late 2015 or beyond, we're right here at Christmas time in 2014. But I want you to think of how can I take what Sean and I talked about and partner with somebody? How can I collaborate instead of thinking, how can I beat that other person? Because together, you and I are going to go so much further, and we're going to stand up to, the Walmarts, the Best Buys, the big companies that are trying to squash the little guys, which I shop at those places too, but you and I are never going to get very far if we are just fighting against one another and trying to prevent somebody else's success, and we'll get so much further. I'm so passionate about it because that is how I've seen any success that I've seen in the last year, 2 years, 3 years has been when I put my head against somebody else and said, how can we think about this together? How can we do something together? How can we partner? How can we collaborate? How can we both win? Thinking win-win, that's how you're going to get so much further in life. If you want the tools and the resources that Sean and I talked about today, go to empoweredpodcast.com/65/65. This is my 65th episode, so go to empoweredpodcast.com/65 and type in your email, and I'll send you a list of all of the resources that we talked about. If you're thinking about starting an online business, if you are thinking about turning your blog into a business, or you have products that you want to sell, or you just want to get an online presence, that is a fantastic list for you to check out so that you can get started. Also, members.ellerywells.com. members.com. It's a new membership site that I am launching in 2015. I've got some early bird pricing specials that I would love for you to check out. It's going to be more of these tools like Sean and I talked about. Videos, how-tos, an entrepreneur's dictionary. Check out members.ellerywells.com. I know that's 2 things for you to do, and we're only supposed to tell you 1 thing, but I think you're smarter than that. I think you're going to listen, and you're going to be excited to do online business and think collaboration instead of competition in 2015. So members.ellerywells.com. I want you to sign up for that. And then go to empoweredpodcast.com/65 and get the free resources that Sean and I talked about today. Thank you for tuning into the Empowered Podcast. My name is Ellery Wells. Have a Merry Christmas.